Hello everyone, welcome back to Physics Online CET classes. Today I am going to solve model question paper based on JEE Mains examination pattern. We already know that examination pattern contains 25 questions. Each question carries 4 marks. For a wrong answer, 1 mark will be deducted. For right answer, 4 marks will be awarded. And the first 20 questions are objective type questions based on NCERT syllabus. And the last 5 questions, 21 to 25. So these questions are completely numerical type questions. So totally there are 25 questions. We already studied one model question paper in the previous video lecture. So this is second model question paper I am going to solve in today's session. JEE Mains 2020, you can observe the highlights here. This question paper structured as per NCERT curriculum. It contains assertion and reason type questions for exclusive IIT preparation. Today I am going to solve second model question paper based on JEE Mains examination. Let us solve the first question. A particle is thrown vertically upwards if its velocity at half of the maximum height is given 10 meter per second. Then maximum height attained by it is. We have to find the maximum height attained by the particle. G value is given. Here let us consider the particle is thrown. Here the particle is thrown initially with velocity u. And when it attains a maximum height, let us take the maximum height is h. We know the equation h equal to u square divided by 2g. This is the maximum height attained by the particle. But in the given problem, here its velocity is 10 meter per second when its height is half of the maximum value. That means here you can see when particle is at a height, let us take half of the maximum height. Here maximum height is capital H. Half of its value means we can take it as h by 2. Then its speed is given. Let us take the final velocity 10 meter per second. Initial velocity is u. Now we can use the equation v square equal to u square plus 2as. Equation of motion we can use here, or we can write it as v square equal to u square. Here acceleration due to gravity is in opposite direction. So here we can write minus g. So the equation becomes minus 2g. Here displacement means we can take height h. Substitute the values. V is 10, final velocity 10 square. Initial velocity keep as it is u square minus 2g. In place of h, we have to write h by 2. Right, this is half of the maximum height. Or we can write it as u square minus 2g. Here I am going to write u square minus 2g. In place of h by 2, what is h here? Here you can substitute equation 1. From equation 1, we can write here h is u square by 2g. H by 2 it is. So I can write here in place of h u square divided by 2g. 2 into 2 will be 4g. Or we can write the final value u square equal to, after substituting all the values, in place of g we can write g equal to 10 meter per second square. It is given. Substitute all the values. We will get u square equal to 200. But we want maximum height. So therefore maximum height we can write h equal to, maximum height is denoted by h and the equation is u square by 2g. Now substitute the value of u square directly here from equation 2. U square is 200 divided by 2 into acceleration due to gravity. It is given 100. It is 10. So 200 divided by 2 into 10, that gives the value 10 meter. So the maximum height attained by the particle is 10 meter. So option B is right. The second question is, a ray of light enters a rectangular glass slab. Here I am going to consider this is a rectangular glass slab. A ray of light enters. Let us take this is the ray of light which is entering a rectangular glass slab of refractive index. It is given √3. At an angle of incidence 60 degree. Let us draw this is a normal. Angle of incidence is given 60 degree. It travels a distance of 5 centimeter. Let us take this is the thickness which is equal to 5 centimeter and emerges out of the slab. Here when it enters the glass slab, refraction of light takes place. After refraction, again it is going to fall on the bottom surface. So finally this ray of light emerges out from the glass slab according to this problem. So now we have to find the perpendicular distance between incident ray and the emergent ray. So this is the direction of incident ray and this is emergent ray. We have to find the perpendicular distance between them, right? So this is angle of refraction and this is angle of deviation which is equal to, what is the value of D? Which is equal to, this is, let us take it as I1 and this is R1. So this value will be I1 minus R1. And this is the perpendicular distance, let us take it as D. Now you can see here we can use Snell's law. What it state, n equal to sin I divided by sin R. So for the first surface I can take it as n equal to sin of I1 divided by sin of R1. Here the value of n is given √3, sin of I1 is given 60 degree divided by sin R1. So here we can easily get the value of sin R1. Sin R1 is equal to sin 60 divided by √3. Sin 60 is √3 by 2 divided by √3, or we can write it as 1 divided by 2. √3 will get cancelled. So therefore R1 equal to sin inverse of 1 by 2 which is equal to 30 degree. Sin 30 is 1 by 2. So I can write R1 is 30 degree. Here this value is 30 degree. Now again I am going to use Snell's law for the second surface. We have to find perpendicular distance, that is D we have to find here. So now again I am going to use Snell's law. So what is the equation for Snell's law? So we know that sin I divided by sin R equal to n. Here I am going to consider, you can observe this triangle. See here. So this triangle you can see here. We want D value. This is, let us take angle of deviation. Let us take it as D and this is, let us take it as capital D. Right, this is the bottom surface. Here I want the value of D. Easily we can use sin theta. So if theta is here, sin theta equal to O by H. See here, sin theta equal to opposite side divided by hypotenuse. Opposite side means here it is capital D, perpendicular distance, divided by height means here it is thickness. So we can take it as phi, D divided by phi. So this is the value of sin theta. But here what is the value of theta? That is sin of theta means what here? I1 minus R1 is equal to D divided by phi. Or we can write D equal to multiplied by phi sin of I1 minus R1. Or substitute the values. D equal to phi into sin of I1 is 60 degree and R1 is 30 degree. 60 minus 30 will be 30. So sin 30 is 1 by 2. So we will get phi into 1 by 2 means 5 by 2. So here the final answer is capital D. Here it is. Don't get confused with small d and capital D. So these all are capital D because that indicates perpendicular distance between emergent ray and incident ray. Small d indicates angle of deviation. So I can write capital D equal to 5 divided by 2 centimeter. So the perpendicular distance between incident ray and emergent ray is 5 by 2 centimeter. So option second is right. Come to the third question. A particle of mass m is executing oscillation about the origin on the x-axis with amplitude a. Its potential energy is given by u of x equal to x raised to 4. Here it is a. Where it is positive constant, what is the x coordinate of mass? Where potential energy is 1/3 of kinetic energy of the particle. Here potential energy it is given, let us take potential energy is equal to a x raised to 4, or we can take it as u equal to a x raised to 4. Here it is given. But here you can observe the last sentence. Potential energy is 1/3 of kinetic energy. So we can write potential energy means it is denoted by, here it is given potential energy u is 1/3 of kinetic energy. Or I can write it as kinetic energy is equal to 3 times of potential energy, or kinetic energy equal to 3 times of potential energy is already given, that is ax raised to 4. Right? This is what kinetic energy from the given equation. Now at maximum amplitude A, total energy is equal to, here it is given at maximum amplitude is denoted by capital A. So we can write total energy is equal to A into, here for maximum amplitude we can write capital A raised to 4. Right? In place of x I can write capital A for maximum amplitude. Then total energy means what? Sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. That means potential energy U plus kinetic energy K is equal to A into capital A raised to 4. Substitute the value of U and K. What is the value of U? U is equal to AX raised to 4 plus, what is the value of kinetic energy? Here it is 3AX raised to 4 is equal to A into capital A raised to 4. AX raised to 4 plus 3AX raised to 4 can be written as 4AX raised to 4 is equal to A into A raised to 4. Keep as it is. So X raised to 4 equal to, I can write A will get cancelled here. Remaining is capital A raised to 4 divided by 4. Or we can write it as X equal to plus or minus A divided by root 2. X equal to plus or minus A divided by root 2. That means option, you can observe here, plus or minus A divided by root 2 means again option 2 is correct. The weight of a person is 60 kg. If he gets 105 calories heat through the food and the efficiency of his body is 28%, then up to how much height he can climb? Here energy gained by the person, that is, it is not 105, it is 10 raised to 5. Right? Now you can see here I am going to write energy gained by the person. Let us take it as EG. EG means what here? Energy gained by the person. How much energy is gained by the person? He gets 10 raised to 5 calories heat through the food. So we can write 10 raised to 5 calorie is energy gained. Then second point I am going to use, how much energy is used. Let us write it as EU. EU indicates energy used by the person is equal to, I can write N amount of energy is used by the person. So total energy he get EG, that is 10 raised to 5 calorie. So N amount of energy is, we don't know the value of N. Let us take N amount of energy is used by the person. Then, so what is N here? N means here, we can write instead of N, I can write it as eta, where eta indicates efficiency. So what is the efficiency? Means how much energy he can utilize. So it is also given 28%, which is equal to 0.28. Now we can write energy used is how much? Energy used means eta efficiency into energy gain, that is 0.28 into 10 raised to 5. So we can get 2,80,000. No, it is simply 28,000 calories. Right. Now I am going to use energy used by the person. We have the equation EU, or we can write the capital E here. EU means energy used is equal to mgh. We can use this equation, substitute the value. EU we calculated already, that is 28,000 calorie. Convert in terms of joule, so that is equal to 4.186 joule, or we can write 4.2 joules. In terms of joule we have to convert from calorie, is equal to 60 kg is the weight of the person. 60 into acceleration due to gravity, we can take 9.8, or round up we can take 10, into height capacities. The question is how much height he can climb. So therefore h equal to, after calculating all the values, we can write 199 meter. But there is no option like a 199, so we can write approximately it is equivalent to 200 meter. This is the height he can climb. So 200 meter means option third is right. Fifth question. A parallel plate capacitor has an electric field of 10 raised to 5 volt per meter between the plates. If the charge on the capacitor plate is 1 microcoulomb, the force on each capacitor plate is. So we can use the equation F equal to 1 by 2 Q divided by A epsilon naught, or we can modify this equation F equal to 1 by 2 Q into E. Substitute the values directly. 1 by 2 into 10 raised to 1 microcoulomb, here it is. The charge on the capacitor is 1 microcoulomb, which is equal to 1 into 10 raised to minus 6 into electric field is given 10 raised to 5 volt per meter. So easily we can get the force on each capacitor F equal to, after calculating all this value, we can write 0.05 Newton. 0.05 Newton, that indicates option 2 is right. A galvanometer of resistance 20 ohm shown deflection of 10 divisions when a current of 1 milliampere is passed through it. If a shunt of 4 ohm is connected and there are 50 divisions on the scale, what is the range of the galvanometer? See here, this is all about conversion of galvanometer into ammeter. So there we have the equation. So let us consider Ig is equal to, here 1 milliampere current is passed through the given galvanometer having resistance 20 ohm. So let us write the current is Ig into G, that means 1 milliampere into Ig into G. Capital G means 50 divisions on the galvanometer is 50 divided by I minus Ig. So here we can directly write. So that shows 10 divisions, difference is 10. So we can write the current through the galvanometer is 5 milliampere. Now I can use the equation S equal to Ig into G divided by I minus Ig. Shunt resistance is given 4 ohm is equal to Ig value is 5 into 10 raised to minus 3 into capital G is given 20 ohm divided by resistance of the galvanometer is 20 divided by I capacities minus Ig, that value is given 2 into 10 raised to minus 3. So after substituting all the values, we will get the answer I equal to 30 into 10 raised to minus 3, or we can write 30 milliampere. So 30 milliampere means option 4 is correct. Assume that a lamp radiates power P uniformly in all the directions. The magnitude of electric field strength at a distance R from the lamp is. The magnitude of electric field strength. See here, energy flux density. I am going to use the equation energy flux density. That means E equal to 1 by 2 epsilon naught E naught square. Let us take it as equation 1. We also know that intensity I equal to T divided by A. Let us take it as equation number 2. See here, this energy flux density and intensity both are same. Equation 1 and equation 2 both are same. Therefore, I am going to write T divided by, here in place of A, I can write directly 4 pi R square is equal to 1 by 2 epsilon naught E naught square. Or we can write electric field strength E naught square is equal to 2 into P divided by 4 pi R square epsilon naught. Here 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4. So we will get the final equation E naught equal to root of P divided by 2 pi R square epsilon naught. This is electric field strength at a distance R from the lamp. P divided by 2 pi epsilon naught R square. That means option 3 is right. A cylindrical rod magnet has a length 5 cm and a diameter of 1 cm. It has a uniform magnetization of 5.3 into 10 raised to 3 ampere per meter cube. What is its magnetic dipole moment? Here I am going to write the relation for dipole moment, that is given by M equal to I into V. Here I can write volume of the cylinder. So V indicates volume of the cylinder. So volume of the cylinder I can write V equal to it is simply we can write pi R square L, where R is the radius and L is the length of the cylinder. Then dipole moment means I can write M equal to, therefore dipole moment M equal to, we can write I pi R square L. So this is what? Dipole moment, magnetic dipole moment. Now substitute all the values. I value is given 5.30 into 10 raised to 3. This is I value into pi is 22 by 7, keep as it is, into here diameter is given, that is 1 centimeter, which is equal to 0.5 centimeter. So radius we can write here 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 2 square into length is given 5 centimeter. So we can write 5 into 10 raised to minus 2. So calculate all these value. We will get the magnetic dipole moment M equal to, answer is nearly equal to 2.08 into 10 raised to minus 2. So 2.08 into 10 raised to minus 2. That means option 2 is correct. A tuning fork of 512 Hz is used to produce resonance in a resonance tube experiment. The level of water at the first resonance is given 30.7 centimeter, and at the second resonance its value is 63.2 centimeter. What is the error in the calculating velocity of sound? And speed of sound is given 330 meter per second. See here, frequency of tuning fork is given. Let us write 512 Hz. In the first resonance, for the first resonance, L means length, L equal to, I can take it as 30.7 centimeter. Similarly, in the second resonance, the value of length L equal to, it is given 63.2 centimeter. And then, so the difference between them, the first resonance and the second resonance, therefore directly I can write lambda by 2 is equal to 63.2 centimeter minus 30.7 centimeter, that gives the value 32.5. Therefore lambda equal to 2 into 32.5, so we can write 65 centimeter, or which is equal to 0.65 meter. Now easily we can find the velocity of the sound. Velocity of the sound, let us take it as V naught. V naught is equal to, we have the formula F lambda. Here it is already given F lambda, that is multiply the value of F and lambda, that is 512 hertz into 0.65 meter, that gives V naught equal to 332.8 meter per second. Now, what is the error in calculating velocity of sound? We have to find the error here. So, therefore, error observed here, error observed equal to velocity of sound is denoted by V naught minus, here it is given speed of the sound as 330 meter per second. So we can easily find their differences here. 332.8 minus 330. So the difference is 2.8 meter per second. Or in terms of centimeter, directly I can write 280 centimeter per second. This is the error observed in the speed of the sound. 280 centimeter per second means option 4 is right. A light string passes over a frictionless pulley. To one of its ends, a mass of 6 kg is attached. To its another end, a mass of 10 kg is attached. The tension in the thread will be. So here we have the direct equation. T equal to tension in the string is given by the equation T equal to 2 times of M1 M2 divided by M1 plus M2 into G. This is tension in the string. This equation we can use directly here. Substitute the values. 2 into mass M1 is equal to, let us take it as 6 into M2 is 10 divided by 6 plus 10 into acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. So T equal to, we can write the answer 73.5 Newton. So T equal to 73.5 Newton, option 3 is correct. When a large bubble rises from the bottom of a lake to the surface, its radius also doubles. If atmospheric pressure is equal to that of column of water height h, then the depth of the lake is. We have to find the depth of the lake. You can observe a large bubble rises from the bottom of the lake to the surface. So it is given that atmospheric pressure means, generally it is given by atmospheric pressure is given by P naught equal to rho G H. Here I can write capital H, where rho indicates density of the water. And now let depth of the lake is taken as D. Pressure at this depth would be, see here I am going to consider, let depth of the lake is taken as D, then pressure at this depth will be, pressure at this depth would be, we can write pressure at this depth P equal to atmospheric pressure is P naught plus, we can write here rho G, here it is rho G D. Or I can write P equal to, P naught is what? Rho G H. We can write rho G as common. Remaining is D plus H. Here the surrounding temperature is constant. We assume that the process takes place isothermally. Because we know that in the isothermal process temperature is constant. Since the surrounding temperature is constant, so we assume this process takes place isothermally. See here, since the surrounding temperature is constant, we assume that this process takes place isothermally. This is isothermal process. So therefore, I can use the Boyle's law. According to Boyle's law, we can write the equation P1 V1 equal to P2 P2. Here that 1 indicates the water at the depth D, and number 2 that indicates the surface of the water. See here, this part indicates water at depth D, right? And here this number 2 indicates surface of water. Hence we can write P1 equal to, substituting all the values, P1 is equal to rho G D plus H. P2 equal to, I can take it as rho GH. This is water at the depth D and this is surface water. So therefore, I can write V2 equal to, substitute these values in this equation, in the above equation P1, V1 equal to P2, V2. So therefore, directly I am going to write the final answer V2 equal to 8 times of V1. The radius is doubled, volume becomes 8 times. According to this numerical problem, when radius is doubled, we can see here volume is 6 times of its initial value. Now substituting these values in the Boyle's law, so therefore I can write directly D equal to 8H, this is 8 times, minus initially is taken as H, so we can take it as 7H. Hence, the depth of the lake is 7H. Option 2 is correct. The temperature of a gas at pressure P and volume V is 27 degrees Celsius. Keeping its volume constant, if its temperature is raised to 927 degrees Celsius, then its pressure will be. Here we can use Charles' law that gives temperature and pressure is given. Volume is kept constant. Volume is constant means we can use Charles' law that is given by P1 by P2 equal to T1 divided by T2. Here volume is constant, or I can write the equation P2 equal to P1 T2 divided by T1. Now substitute all the values. P2 equal to, here P into T2 value is given, that is 927 degrees Celsius plus 273. In terms of Kelvin we have to write 927 plus 273 divided by initial temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. So we can write 273 plus 27 degrees Celsius. So after calculating all the value, we can get P2 equal to P. Here we can get the value 4. That means P2 equal to 4 times of P. So its pressure will be 4 times of its initial pressure. So option 2 is right. A solenoid has an inductance of 60 Henry and a resistance of 30 ohm. If it is connected to 100 volt battery, how long will it take for the current to reach E minus 1 divided by E is approximately equal to 63.2% of its final value. Here I am going to write, we can use T equal to, or we can take it as tau, which is equal to L divided by R. So tau indicates it is a time constant, tau equal to L divided by R. This is LR circuit, that is inductor and resistor circuit. Time constant is directly given by the equation tau equal to L divided by R, or we can write T equal to, here L value is given 60 Henry divided by resistor value is given 30 ohm. So we can get the answer T equal to, the time constant, time elapsed T equal to 2 seconds. So T equal to 2 seconds. That is option 3 is right. 14th question. Consider the following statement A and B and identify the correct answer. First we can read the A and B statements. The first statement, polarized light can be used to study the helical surface of nucleic acids. The first statement here, polarized light can be used to study the helical surface of nucleic acids. See here, I am explaining the first sentence, first statement. Nucleic acid is an optically active medium. When these circularly polarized light passes through an absorbing optically active medium, the speed between the right and the left polarization differs as well as their wavelength. Left and the right side polarization also changes, with that their wavelength also changes. So that it can be used to study the helical structure of nucleic acid. That means statement A is right. Now come to the statement B. What it state? Optics axis is a direction and not any particular line in the crystal. See here, an optical axis is a line along which there is some degree of rotational symmetry in an optical system. Thus, it is a particular direction and not any random line. So that option B means the statement B is also correct. A and B are correct means you can observe the third option is right. Consider two containers A and B containing identical gases at the same pressure, volume and temperature. There are two containers A and B having same pressure, same volume and same temperature. The gas in a container A is compressed to half of its original volume isothermally. That means the first container is kept at constant temperature. Then it is compressed to its half of the original volume. While the gas container B is compressed to half of its original value adiabatically. Then what is the ratio of final pressure of gas in B to that of gas in A? Here you can use when the compression is isothermal for the gas A. For isothermal process we have the equation. See here, when compression takes place isothermally, when compression is isothermal for the first container, so we can write the equation P1 V1 equal to P2 V2 at constant temperature. Or I can write P2 equal to P1 V1 divided by V2, right? Or I am going to write P2 equal to V1 divided by P1 keep as it is, V1 also keep as it is divided by V2. V2 means final volume. Final volume is compressed to half of its original volume. Original volume we can take it as V2. So when it is compressed, so I can take V2 equal to V1 divided by 2. Substitute here V1 by 2. So we can get P2 equal to V1 will get cancelled 2 times of P1. This is for the container A. Now come to the second container. That means when compression takes place adiabatically. When compression is adiabatic. When compression is adiabatic for the container B. Then again we have the equation P1 V1 raised to gamma equal to P2 V2 raised to gamma. Or I can write P2 equal to P1 keep as it is, V1 divided by V2 raised to gamma. Or I am going to write P2 equal to P1. Here V1 keep as it is in place of final volume. It is compressed half of its initial value. So we can write V1 by V1 by 2 whole raised to gamma. Or P2 equal to, we will get V1 here get cancelled 2 raised to gamma into P1. This is for second container. Now the question is the ratio of final pressure in B to that of A. Means here let us take it as P2 dash. Therefore, P2 dash divided by P2 is equal to the ratios 2 raised to gamma P1 divided by 2 P1. So I can write the final equation P2 dash divided by P2 is equal to P1 will get cancelled. So I can write 2 raised to gamma. So 2 raised to minus 1 bases are same. So we can write 2 raised to gamma minus 1. So 2 raised to gamma minus 1 means option 1 is right. A soap bubble of radius r is blown. After heating the solution, a second bubble of radius 2r is blown. So totally there are two bubbles before heating, after heating. Before heating radius is r, after heating radius is 2r. Then The work required to blow the second bubble in comparison to that required for the first bubble is. We have to find work done to form bubble of radius r and 2r. So I am going to use the work done to form a bubble of radius r. This is for the first case. I have the direct equation. For the first case, I can write it as W1 is equal to 8 pi r square T1. This is for the first case. Similarly, we can take work done to form a bubble. Work done to form a bubble of radius 2r. I can write the equation W2 equal to 8 pi 2r whole square T2. 2 square 4, 8 4s are 32 pi r square T2. This is W1 and W2. So the question is the work required to blow the second bubble in comparison to that required for the first bubble. Therefore, I can write here I am going to take W1 divided by W2 is equal to, substitute their values. W1 is 8 pi r square T1 divided by W2 is 32 pi r square T2. Calculating this value, we will get W1 by W2 is equal to T divided by 4 T2. If surface tension of the soap solution is the same, then we can write if surface tension T is the same, then T will get cancelled. Suppose if T is the same, therefore I can write W2 is equal to 4 times of W1. W2 equal to 4 times of W1. But as a given in the problem, temperature of solution is increased. Thus, its surface tension decreases. So I can write W2 is less than 4 times of W1. Because it is given in the problem, temperature of solution is always increased. Thus, surface tension increases. So here option first option is right, that is slightly less than 4 times. Option 1 is right. Find out the value of current through 2 ohm resistance for the given circuit. How much current is flowing through this resistance we have to find, right? Now here you can observe this is positive terminal, this is negative terminal. Here also positive and negative terminal of the battery is connected to. Here the battery source is 10 volt and here it is having 20 volt. And here it is connected to 5 ohm, but here it is connected to 10 ohm. 20 volt potential, 10 ohm resistance. Here in the first loop 10 volt potential but 5 ohm resistance. Then what is the current through the resistor 2 ohm that we have to find? See here, we already know that as the current coming out of the positive terminal, when the current is coming out of the positive terminal, here also you can take when it is coming out of the positive terminal of the battery, which is equal to the current entering the negative terminal. How much amount of current is leaving positive terminal, the same amount of current will enter the negative terminal of the battery. Thus, current in the respective loop, here in this loop, current in the respective loop remains confined, means it is restricted to the following loops. So therefore, current through the resistor is equal to 0. So why current through the resistor is equal to 0? Because current is restricted for the given loop. Here it is the same, entering and exit the value or the magnitude of current is same. That's why here at resistor 2 ohm, the value of current is 0. So option 1 is right. The potential difference V and current I flowing through an instrument in an AC circuit of frequency F are given by V equal to 5 cos omega t volt and I equal to 2 sin omega t amperes, where omega equal to 2 pi f. The power dissipated in the instrument is, see here we have the equation power, P equal to V RMS into I RMS into cos pi. Here VRMS is given how much? That is VRMS equal to 5 cos omega t, or we can write it as 5. In terms of sign we can take it as sine of omega t plus pi by 2, that gives cos omega t. In terms of sine function we can use here. Similarly IRMS is given 2 sine omega t. Now you can observe IRMS is 2 sin omega t, VRMS is sine of 5 sine of omega t plus pi by 2. Then what is the phasor difference between them? The phase difference between them is pi by 2. So therefore P equal to VRMS IRMS cos of pi means phase difference is pi by 2. So cos pi by 2 is 0. 0 into anything will be 0. That means power dissipated in the instrument is 0. Option 4 is right. A stone is thrown at an angle theta to the horizontal, reaches a maximum height h. Then the time of flight of stone will be. We have the equation maximum height h equal to u square sine square theta divided by 2g. And also the time elapsed, time spent, it is also given by the equation t equal to 2 u sine theta divided by g. We can use these two equations. Here I am going to square the above equation. So we can write t square equal to 4 u square sine square theta divided by g square. This is equation 1 and this is equation 2. Now easily we can use equation 1 and 2. Dividing these two equations, t square by h is equal to, t square value is 4u square sine square theta divided by g square into h value 2g divided by u square sine square theta. U square sine square theta will get cancelled. So we can write t square divided by h is equal to 4 to the 8. So 8 divided by g, 1g will get cancelled here. Or I can write t equal to, it will be t square equal to 8h divided by g, squaring on both sides. Therefore t equal to root of 8h divided by g. Or we can write this equation as 2 root of 2h divided by g. So 2 into root of 2h divided by g, option 2 is right. Two wires A and B of same length and of the same material have the respective radii R1 and R2. There are two materials A and B, both are having same length, same material, but radius is R1 and R2. So here their one end is fixed with a rigid support and at the other end equal twisting couple is applied. When equal twisting couple is applied, then the ratio of angle of the twist at the end of A and the angle of twist at the end of B will be. I am going to write the equation for twisting couple. See here, twisting couple is given by the equation C equal to pi eta r raised to 4 theta divided by 2L. So this equation you have to remember for twisting couple. What is the equation? That is C equal to pi eta r raised to 4 theta divided by 2L. Theta is the twisting angle, L is the length of the given wire and R is the radius. Here the material and the length of the wires A and B both are equal, as well as equal twisting couples are applied. So when equal twisting couples are applied here, so we can write the theta value, angle of twist, is inversely proportional to fourth power of the radius. Theta is inversely proportional to 1 divided by r raised to 4. So, or we can write theta 1 divided by theta 2 for the two wires A and B. We can write r2 divided by r1 whole raised to 4. So, the angle of twist for wire A and B, r2 divided by r1 raised to 4. So, option 2 is right. Now, the last 5 questions are numerical type questions. So, here we can solve the 21st question. A car of mass 1.2 tons is traveling along a straight horizontal road at a speed of 20 meters per second. When it brakes sharply, then skids. Friction brings the car to rest. If the coefficient of friction between tires of the car and the road is 0.8, estimate the deceleration, means retardation, in terms of meter per second square. So here this is the car. So here normal reaction is acting vertically upward. This is the force in this direction. Here is the friction. Let us take small f. Weight of the car is acting vertically downward. W equal to mg, which is equal to, here it is given 1.2 ton, means 1200 g. So as the vertical forces are in equilibrium, so we can write for the vertical forces when they are equilibrium, we can directly write R equal to 1200 into G. Since here the car is skidding, that means frictional force F equal to, we can write mu into R. So mu value is given 0.8 into R value. Here we can write 1200 G. So we will get the final value of friction here, 9408 Newton. G is equal to, we can take 9.8 meter per second square. See here, when we applied brakes on the car, because of friction, that causes deceleration. It means velocity of the car go on decreases, deceleration takes place. So we know that according to Newton's second law of motion, we have the equation F equal to ma, or I can write the value of F. Here F means the applied force and the frictional force both are equilibrium in the horizontal direction. So here we can write F equal to ma. F value is 9408 is equal to m into a. So we have the value 1200 into a. So we can calculate the value of acceleration, or we can take it as deceleration, 9408 divided by 1200. So we can get the answer in terms of negative, that is 7.84 meter per second square. So the deceleration of the car is 7.84 meter per second square. The moment of inertia of a meter scale of mass 0.6 kg about an axis perpendicular to the scale and located at 20 centimeter position on the scale in kg meter square is. See here, the moment of inertia of a meter square. Let us consider, I am going to take, this is a meter scale. So this is, let us consider this is a meter scale. This is axis of rotation which is passing through the center of mass. Let us take it as moment of inertia at the center of mass. Let us write it as ICM. Now here in the problem they given moment of inertia about an axis perpendicular to the scale located at 20 centimeter. If I am going to take, here it is the center of mass. From the center of mass 20 centimeter away, somewhere here I can consider moment of inertia at this point. Let us take it as moment of inertia, here it is I. This is equal to 20 centimeter, or let us take it as Ex, 20 centimeter. Is it clear? Now from the given information from the problem, Moment of inertia is given by I equal to. See here, we already studied two theorems, theorem of perpendicular axis and theorem of parallel axis. Now here we can use theorem of parallel axis. We have the equation I equal to ICM plus mr square, or we can take it as mx square. Substitute the value I equal to moment of inertia for a meter scale when it is passing through the center of mass is given by ml square divided by 12 when it is passing through the center of mass plus mx square, keep as it is, or we can write I equal to m is common, take outside, remaining is L square by 12 plus x square. What is the value of x? Is 20 centimeter. So I can write m value is already given 0.6 kg, 0.6 into length is given, that is a meter scale means 1 square will be 1 divided by 12 plus x value is 20 centimeter, that means 0.2 square. So I equal to, we can write 0.6 into 1 by 12 plus 0.2 square is 0.04. So calculating these value, we will get the final answer I equal to 0.074 kg meter square. This is the moment of inertia of a meter scale. 23rd question. A bomb of mass 9 kg explodes into two pieces of mass 3 kg and 6 kg. The velocity of mass 3 kg is 1.6 meter per second. The kinetic energy of mass 6 kg is, we have to find the kinetic energy of mass 6 kg. So according to the problem, there is a 9 kg bomb. Let us take this is a 9 kg bomb. Initially it is at rest. Now it is exploded into two pieces. If it is exploded into two pieces, so here it is having mass 3 kg and this is having mass 6 kg. Let us take masses are m1 and m2 here. The velocity of mass 3 kg is given. That is, we can take the velocity of mass, here it is v1. v1 is given, that is 1.6 meter per second. Similarly for v2, I can take here, we don't know v2 value, but we want kinetic energy for the second piece. Now, I can use law of conservation of linear momentum. The bomb initially it was at rest, therefore initial momentum of the bomb is equal to 0. I can write the equation m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Before exploding, after exploding. Before exploding, so here it is at rest. So u1 and u2 values are equal to 0. So 0 equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Or substitute the values, we will get 0 equal to m1 is 3 into its velocity is 1.6 plus m2 is 6, but we don't know v2 value. So we can get v2 value here, that is 0.8 meter per second. Now easily we can find the kinetic energy. Ke is equal to half m2 v2 square. This is for the second particle. So 1 by 2 into mass of the second piece is 6 kg and its velocity we calculated, that is 0.8. So kinetic energy we got finally, that is 0.8 square. So the final answer is 1.92 joules. Kinetic energy for the second exploded particle is 1.92 joules. 24th question. Two forces, each of the magnitude F, have a resultant of the same magnitude F. What is the angle in degree between the two forces? See here we have the equation for resultant of two vectors. General equation I am going to write R equal to, you can remember this equation, P square plus Q square plus 2 PQ cos theta. This equation I can use here. But the magnitude of two forces are given, both are F here. So I am going to write their resultant is also F. So squaring on both sides, F square is equal to Here T means what? Again it is F square plus Q is also F square plus 2 into PQ. P into Q, F into F will be F square cos theta. This is according to the problem. Their magnitude are F and the resultant is also F. So I can write F square equal to 2F square plus 2F square cos theta. So F square equal to 2F square is common, take outside, remaining is 1 plus cos theta. Right? So 1 plus cos theta, here I can write, now F square will get cancelled. So 1 by 2 equal to 1 plus cos theta. Therefore cos theta is equal to 1 by 2 minus 1, that gives minus 1 by 2. So cos theta is equal to minus 1 by 2. Therefore theta equal to how much? 120 degree. So cos 120 is equal to minus 1 by 2, or which is equal to minus 0.5. So minus 0.5 is the angle in degree between the two forces. For Earth, the escape velocity is given 11.2 km per second. For a planet whose mass and radius are twice those of the Earth, what will be the escape velocity? Here for the Earth is given, for the planet it is doubled, means it is twice of the Earth. So I can write for Earth, escape velocity, let us write it as VE is equal to root of 2mg divided by r. This is escape velocity. This is for Earth. For planet it is doubled. So I can write, let us take it as VE dash is equal to 2m dash g divided by r dash. Now when it is doubled, I can write root of 2. Here it is m dash is equal to 2 times of Earth, g divided by radius is 2 times of Earth, 2r. So we can get the value 2mg divided by r again. Right? So this is for Earth and this is for planet. Both are same here, 2mg divided by r. This is escape velocity for Earth as well as for the planet.